In order to demonstrate a few practical examples of using the LAS library in our ostinati chapter, we have loaded a few presets. We have violins 1 and 2, viola, cello, and contrabass. We have also prepared some ostinato patterns using Sibelius, and we can see them here. Some of these we will perform by playing them into Cubase, and others we will simply analyze somewhat. As these are repetitive patterns, obviously we can simply play them in once and repeat them, but it is still worth playing them in multiple times in order to achieve a musicality, rather than having identical patterns as far as timing and dynamics go, repeating. Your ear is more likely to notice that it is a copy and not the same pattern played in with some individuality. If we look at this first pattern, we can see that the violin 1 and the violin 2 are playing identical parts. But as mentioned previously, because these are in fact separate samples, we can play identical lines in using both instruments, unlike we would have done if we were using a library with one single violin instrument. And yet again, to get better results, I will slow the sequencer down somewhat. And so now we can record violin 1. Now we can do the same thing with violin 2, and you will hear how it sounds richer now. Obviously, the instruments are different, and the timing is slightly different, so this all adds up to a richer and wider sound. Also, violin 1 and 2 are panned slightly differently in the orchestra, and this creates a wider sound stage as well. Now we have the viola, and this is also playing the same melody as the two violins, so this should also enhance the sound. And we can hear it once again widens the sound stage. The temptation to quantize should also be avoided here, as should simply copying one of the violin patterns onto the viola track. Better results will be achieved by playing it in once again. Now we come to the cello and bass, and these are playing different parts to the violins and viola. The cello is playing a repetitive chordal pattern. The type of which is used extensively in film music. So now we can record it. Of course, a pattern like this could be played in easily at full tempo, but in our examples here, it's also important that you are able to follow the score. And now we have the contrabass, which is basically supporting the cello's low notes, but with the addition of a slight embellishment at the end. We can also see that there is an E note in the cello and an F note in the contrabass, which could in fact clash, but the bass note is acting more like a passing note, so in this situation it works fine. Now that we have recorded all of the elements, we can listen back at a higher tempo. And in this case, I will actually double the tempo to 180 BPM. So now we will do what I suggested we don't do. But this is just an example, so we will copy the pattern in order to demonstrate ostinato. And we can even speed it up to 240 BPM. Now we can remove this example and move on. And to help with this, I have set the sequencer to 12/8 time in preparation for the next example.